What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I would like to welcome you on to another edition of Wayne's Perspective, where we operate in discipline, decency, integrity, and respect. Today's video is going to be my second session focusing on my political thoughts with a key focus on what's going on in my state of Virginia. Before I get started, I hope everyone is doing okay on this Saturday afternoon. It's pretty nice in Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, that is. No complaints about the weather. I went to work earlier today and the time went by fast. But then again, when you're on the move and when you're doing things, the time is pretty much going to go fast. Next thing you know, after I took care of a few things, I'm back home, putting the plans together for this video. So like I said, I hope everyone is doing okay, taking every day one day at a time. So like I said, today's session is going to focus on my political thoughts with some of the recent happenings in my state regarding the legislative vetoes and the signing of certain laws by our Governor Glenn Youngkin. And we're definitely going to take a look and see which of those I agree with and which of those I disagree with. And these will come courtesy of two articles. The first one will be courtesy of the Washington Post, and the second one will come courtesy of the Richmond Times-Dispatch. So without further delay, I'm going to go ahead and get my screen shared with you all. And we're going to start with the first one from the Washington Post.
This news story was written by Laura Vazella and Gregory S. Schneider. Youngkin rewrites gaming measure in 11th-hour flurry of bill actions. The bill on skill games was among the session's most contentious. Richmond. A bill to bring slots-like gaming machines to neighborhood stores, restaurants, and truck stops got a top-to-bottom rewrite from Governor Glenn Youngkin, who imposed far stricter standards than the industry-friendly measure that the General Assembly sent to his desk. The Republican governor's action on the skill games legislation was part of a last-minute scramble ahead of an 11:59 p.m. deadline Monday to act on the 1,046 bills that the Democratic-controlled legislature sent to Youngkin before adjourning its 60-day session a month ago. Youngkin easily broke the record for vetoes by a Virginia governor, issuing more in a single year, 153, than the 120 that the previous record holder, Terry McAuliffe, Democrat, issued in his 4 years as governor. Youngkin also amended 116 bills and signed 777 into law. Youngkin wrapped up work on hundreds of bills Monday hours after a midday event, where he rolled out 233 amendments to the state budget, which the governor billed as a compromise, but some Democrats called too aggressive. Among the final bills were some high-profile measures, including those to protect access to contraceptives. Youngkin made amendments that advocates say gut the bills, ban new Confederate license plates and strip tax exemptions from Confederate organizations. He punted those to next year. Allow localities to impose a 1% local sales tax to fund school construction, vetoed, and establish a state board to review and limit prescription costs, also vetoed. The bill on skill games, which look and operate much like video-style slot machines but are said to involve an element of skill, was among the most contentious of the session. One of Youngkin's most significant amendments to that bill would prohibit the games within 35 miles of a casino, horse track, or historical horse racing parlor, which features a video horse racing game similar to slots.
Okay, now this one, I'm not sure what Mr. Youngkin's thinking was regarding this prohibition, so to speak, within 35 miles of a casino, horse track, or historical horse racing parlor. I don't get the thinking or the logic here, but maybe as we continue on, we'll get some more of that. But yes, in general, I don't have any problem with skill games or slot games at any convenience stores. And as a matter of fact, in my area, I've noticed that in addition to the Virginia lottery section, there's a few of those skill games or things similar in those particular stores. So I support those. If it's going to allow for some additional revenue for the stores, I also support that as well. Just as long as there's an age limit on the games, as well as some type of surveillance. If you're not going to have a security guard on standby for a consistent amount of the day, you can also have some increased surveillance. Basically something that's being conducted off site, and things of that nature. So again, I'm not against the games. I'm against the skill games and all of those in those convenience stores, but of course with some security measures as well as age limitations.
That provision would prevent 90% of convenience store owners from participating, estimated Kunal Kumar, vice president of the Virginia Asian American Store
Right.
Owners Association, which pushed for passage of the bill. He said it was hard to square that amendment with the free market principles that the governor, a former Carlyle Group executive, typically espouses. In the future, are we going to tell Burger King not to open up next to McDonald's? He said.
That's a good point right there. And as a matter of fact, it seems like in my area over the last several years, more Burger Kings often close than McDonald's do, but that's a whole different story. Let's
Advocates on
continue on.
both sides of the bill were poring over the 75-page amendment Tuesday to understand the changes. Lobbyists on opposing sides said the wording was unclear as to whether the governor was advocating for a 35% tax on game revenue or 45%. Youngkin's office did not respond to a request to clarify the tax amount. Youngkin's amendments would hold skill games to a standard closer to those for casinos, including more expansive criminal background checks for those involved in the industry, and put them under the purview of the Virginia Lottery, which regulates casinos, instead of the Virginia Alcoholic Beverage Control Authority. The governor also wants to give localities the authority to ban the machines by referendum or local ordinance, and to cap the number at 20,000 statewide.
Okay, now stopping there for a minute. Now, I do agree with expansive criminal background checks in this case. There's nothing wrong with that, just as a real strict measure, I would say. So I do agree with that. Now, holding skill games to a closer standard to those for casinos, um, I would say in a case like this, I guess I understand the thinking here because there's more of a risk involved with skill games as opposed to your average casino. So, if you agree or disagree with that, let me know. But I'm assuming that that's the thinking here, because there's much of a risk here with skill games as opposed to those for casinos. So, I guess that's the level of thinking here. But other than that, like I said, I agree with the expansion of the criminal background checks. I do agree with that.
Virginians Against Neighborhood Slot Machines, a coalition that included casino interests, thanked Youngkin and his team for the extensive time and effort they put into crafting a more thoughtful approach than the bill sent to him, which would have led to an unprecedented expansion of gambling in Virginia.
Okay, for those of you who reside in Virginia, specifically the 804, let me know your thoughts. Do you think that and any type of expansion of gambling in Virginia, do you think that that's going to hurt or help the state? Because, like I said, the last two times we voted for this particular adoption of a casino in Virginia, it was struck down twice. I voted for it twice. So let me know your thoughts on that. Do you agree with any type of expansion of gambling in any area of the state, or do you
The
disagree
bill
with it?
sent to the governor would have allowed up to 4 of the machines in any convenience store, restaurant, or other establishment with a liquor license, and up to 10 at each truck stop.
Now, those numbers are reasonable, I think.
Youngkin's amendments would limit them to establishments that sell lottery tickets, which would probably eliminate most restaurants and bars.
Okay, now limiting them to establishments that sell lottery tickets, that's what I was referring to earlier. There's a lot of convenience stores in the areas, and I would say a couple of them do have these skill games inside. So I just wanted to make that point clear. As far as eliminate most restaurants and bars, I guess that comes with it as well. But we can continue
He
on.
would allow 3 machines at each of those establishments and 7 at truck stops. The bill sent to Youngkin had no statewide cap. Youngkin had hinted for weeks that he might veto or severely amend the skill games bill, which was championed by Senator L. Louise Lucas, D. Portsmouth, who played an outsized role in thwarting the governor's plan for a $2 billion publicly financed arena in Alexandria for the Washington Wizards and Capitals. Senator Aaron R. Rouse, D. Virginia Beach, who sponsored the bill, said he was taken aback by the scope of the rewrite and its 11th hour execution. Rouse said the first he heard from the administration on the bill was Friday night, when Youngkin Chief of Staff Jeff Getman arranged for a Saturday conference call with the senator and a handful of other legislators. Rouse said he expected to discuss amendments. Only as the call ran long did Rouse realize the administration wanted a major overhaul, one that extended into a second conference call Sunday. 2 hours into the first phone call, I said, "Hold on. I expected amendments, but you're rewriting the bill." On a phone call, Rouse said. "This is too important to be doing this on the fly at the 11th hour." They basically wanted to rewrite the bill in 5 hours, something that took 60 days. Youngkin's office did not respond to a request for comment on Rouse's criticism, But spokesman Christian Martinez said the revision establishes a robust regulatory framework overseen by the Virginia Lottery, enhances consumer and public safety protections, and grants localities and Virginians a voice. Legislators will act on all of the governor's proposed amendments and vetoes when they reconvene in Richmond on April 17th. It takes a 2/3 supermajority to override a veto, which is unlikely in the closely divided House and Senate.
And as a matter of fact, when there are some articles or a article that's put up regarding the reconvening, I am going to come back with a video on that. So depending on what takes place, either local, state, or federally, that's likely going to be session 3.
The legislature needs only a simple majority to reject amendments. But there's a catch. The governor gets the last word on any bill that goes back to him in its original form. He can sign or veto it. And if it's the latter, the General Assembly doesn't get a chance to override him. Youngkin's actions Monday night included several high-profile issues. Access to contraceptives. Though Youngkin did not veto an identical pair of bills that seek to enshrine Virginians' access to contraceptives, he proposed amending them in a way that renders them meaningless, according to advocates. Both SB 237 and HB 609 would establish a right to obtain contraceptives and to use them under state law. Youngkin proposed substitute language that would make the legislation an expression of the sentiment of the legislature, rather than add it to state law. The governor's language says, "It shall be the public policy of the Commonwealth that individuals possess the right to access contraception, as set forth in federal case law."
Okay, now this one is important. Now, I'm not surprised that Youngkin's take, because again, he is a Republican, so his stance on this is no surprise. However, if there was a Democrat governor, I can guarantee you that the Democratic governor will most likely grant this access to contraceptives in a way that would add it to state law. My stance on it, there should be access to contraceptives. I would have to look at it additionally to see if it would be best to have it as part of legislation or if it would be best if added to state law. So I'll have to read more.
Jamie Lockhart, executive director of Planned Parenthood Advocates of Virginia, said that language holds no force and would be swept away if federal law changed. This fundamental right faces unprecedented threats, Lockhart said, citing the U.S. Supreme Court's decision overturning Roe v. Wade abortion protections. Confederate heritage. Youngkin dodged a couple of Confederate-related issues, one related to tax exemptions and the other to license plates, sending both topics to next year for further action and study. One pair of identical bills, HB 568 and SB 517, would strip away exemptions from state recordation taxes and real and personal property taxes for the United Daughters of the Confederacy, the Confederate Memorial Literary Society, and the Stonewall Jackson Memorial, Inc. A Virginia Beach high school student brought the issue to the General Assembly after her lawyer father discovered the obscure part of state law. The measures passed on largely party line votes, with all Democrats in favor and most Republicans opposed.
Okay, now I do stand with the Democrats on this one. Even if I wasn't a Democrat, I would still stand with them on this issue because they don't need any type of exemptions or any type of assistance for anything regarding the Confederacy, in or outside of my state. But since this is regarding my state, yes, I agree with this. Now, I think I know why he dodged these and wanted to punt them to next year, is because most likely we're in the election year. So I assume that's why he wanted to deal with these next year. And if I would say these particular bills, he will probably amend them. I wouldn't be surprised if he outright vetoed them, but I'm with the Democrats on this one. As far as any exemptions from state recordation taxes and real and personal property taxes, no exemptions whatsoever. Me personally, I could go another route with it, but I saved those thoughts for another video. But yes, he probably does these because we're in an election year and he don't want to upset conservatives or those who lean Republican. So that's probably why he decided to punt, but we'll continue.
Youngkin proposed amending the bills to require the state tax department to study local impact and the General Assembly to consider them again next year. Del Alex Q. Askew, D. Virginia Beach, who sponsored the House version, called Youngkin's action unacceptable on the site X. This is about fairness and fiscal responsibility, Askew wrote. We shouldn't delay aligning our code with our values and vision for the Commonwealth.
Now, I do agree with Delegate Alex here. This is about fairness and fiscal responsibility, and we do not need a state tax department to study this. There's no need for a study here. They shouldn't be entitled to the exemptions.
Youngkin also proposed amending HB 812, sponsored by Deland Candy Munden King, D. Prince William, which would ban further issuance of state license plates commemorating the Sons of Confederate Veterans or General Robert E. Lee. The governor wants the state to study whether to set a sunset or expiration period for all commemorative plates, and for the General Assembly to revisit this bill next year. I'm not surprised Governor Youngkin won't stand up to Confederate sympathizers, Munden King posted on X.
Again, the governor's thinking is probably because we're in the election year, he didn't want to upset either those who support him or those who support Republicans in general. That's why I see why he wants to propose these amendments, as well as push it to next year, as well as doing a study. They don't need to do a study, and we do not need to be issuing any state license plates with anything having to do with the Confederacy in any form. There needs to be a permanent expiration here, and we don't need a study.
Asterisk school construction. Youngkin vetoed a pair of identical bills that would have allowed any county or city in the state to impose a 1% local sales tax and use the proceeds for school construction. State law already allows several jurisdictions to do so, and the bills would have expanded the program. In his veto message, Youngkin said that school construction is a worthy cause, and noted that recent state budgets have increased funding for that purpose. But he said the bills would increase the tax burden in some areas, and any proposal that increases the cost of living and the cost of business is not a policy we should pursue.
Okay, now I do disagree with this one. Now, based on some schools that I've seen within recent times, yes, most schools in our area that I've seen, most of them could benefit a lot from additional construction. I wouldn't disagree with a 1% local sales tax as long as those proceeds do go towards school construction. So I don't disagree with that thinking. I disagree with the veto as well, especially since, it says here that state law already allows several jurisdictions to do so, and I agree with expanding the program. So this is a veto I disagree with. Any type of legislation that'll go towards schools, and in this case, school construction, I do support.
Senator Jeremy McPike, D. Prince William, who sponsored the Senate version of the bill, issued a statement noting that the legislation had significant bipartisan support. It passed the Senate 25-13 and the House 68-28. While schools all across the Commonwealth continue to suffer from crumbling infrastructure, the governor continues to play political football. Our kids deserve better, he wrote.
And see, that's the point that I was making, crumbling infrastructure. Yes, I do agree with that based on what I've seen within recent years. So yes, schools would have been able to benefit from this. So again,
asterisk prescription drug prices. Youngkin vetoed an identical pair of bills that would have established a Virginia Prescription Drug Affordability Board to review drug prices and set upper cost limits for those found to be unaffordable.
I disagree with this veto because now this is a case where a board, in this case, a Virginia Prescription Drug Affordability Board, this would be unprecedented, I'm assuming. And also, to review drug prices and set upper cost limits, a board would be perfect for this. So I disagree with this particular
Both
veto.
SB 274 and HB 570 passed on largely party line votes, though the Senate version had a Republican co-sponsor and picked up a few GOP votes in that chamber. In his veto message, Youngkin said the idea was noble in its intent, but could harm patients because the board would evaluate medicines solely on cost and could limit access to treatments and hinder medical innovation.
Okay, it will not limit access and it will not hinder medical innovation. Now, noble in its intent. Yes, the idea is noble, and that's a obvious statement. But a board like this would have served a real great purpose. And if you want to say it's based solely on cost, well, if you want to have things set so that constituents are paying less for drug prices, then yes, it will be based solely on cost, but it's not based solely on cost at the expense of the constituents. So again, I disagree with this view.
Virginia AARP, which had advocated for the bills, issued a statement from State Director James Dow, calling Youngkin's action disappointing and a step backward to helping many people afford their cost of living and their cost of staying alive. Among his other actions, Youngkin vetoed bills that would have ordered the State Department of Labor and Industry to study the idea of raising minimum pay for tipped employees, required the Department of Elections to develop model standards for localities to use when deciding where to place satellite voting offices, and clarify the requirements for using ranked choice voting in elections, the method by which the Republican Party of Virginia chose Youngkin as its gubernatorial nominee in 2021.
All right, let's see. Veto bills that would have ordered the State Department of Labor and Industry to study the idea of raising minimum pay for tipped employees. Okay, I disagree with that veto. I mean, a pay raise in any form would be beneficial to workers, and in this case, for tipped employees, it would have, I would say, given them a little morale boost to get a pay raise. And I'm all for giving pay raises to the workers. I'm all for that. And even when I'm in office, that is going to be one thing that I champion, especially if we're still in the same fiscal and financial boat that we're in now in terms of where the where where the minimum wage is and where it should be at that point. So I'm all for raising the minimum wage, and in this case, tip workers. Okay, require the Department of Elections to develop model standards for localities to use when deciding where to place satellite voting offices. Okay, that's probably a little more technical, so I have to look into that one a little bit more. I'm going to skip that third one.
Among the other bills Youngkin signed just before Monday night's deadline, HB 25 and SB 116, identical measures that establish a state sales tax holiday on the first full weekend of August between July 1st, 2025 and July 1st, 2030. The General Assembly used to authorize the back-to-school sales tax holiday on a yearly basis, but last year, everyone forgot to do so.
Okay, now this one right here, I would say that at a certain point, what they're going to end up doing here is they're going to make this a permanent thing, I think, as the years go by.
HB 456 increases the salary cap for city council members around the state. The new caps range from a low of $20,000 per year for council members in cities with a population under 15,000, up from $11,000, to a high of $52,000 for cities with a population over 260,000, up from $28,000. A city would have to hold a public hearing before raising council pay, and annual inflation adjustments would be capped at 5%. HB 1354 prohibits the declawing of cats, except for medically necessary purposes.
I guess I do agree with that. I don't agree with any type of mutilation of animals, but in this case, I guess I'll halfway agree with this, and hopefully do not get to a point where we have to declaw cats.
HB 1496 requires all state and local law enforcement agencies to submit to the state a list of all surveillance technologies in use every year.
I agree with that.
HB 1452 requires every state agency to submit its annual report on diversity, equity, and inclusion to the General Assembly, in addition to the governor, as now mandated.
I support that.
SB 253 and 255 and HB 106 and 108 are a package of bills expanding the shared solar energy program offered by Dominion Energy, in which customers can subscribe to a centrally located solar facility, and establishing a similar program for customers of Appalachian Power in Southwest Virginia.
Okay, I think I support that one as well.
This news story was written by Laura.
Not bad. Sorry about that. Yes, I support that last one as well, regarding the bills for Dominion Energy and customers subscribe to a centrally located solar facility. I do agree with those.